everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Warp Zone, a podcast on sci-fi, philosophy, religion, politics, gaming, and anything else taboo.
Can't wait for the people to listen to this that's never listened to an episode before and think that you actually speak like that all the time.
Yeah, I know, that would be good, wouldn't it? That's me putting my posh voice on instead of my bogan voice.
It sounds exactly the same.
No, don't say that.
No.
Get out of it.
Alright, so what are we talking about?
We're talking about Brexit because I don't know much about it, and I know you know a lot about it, and I thought you could teach me some things.
Okay. Britain's going to leave the EU, apparently.
Yes, it's imminent.
Well, it's been imminent for a while. It's been going on for a while, and it's quite complicated. But let's start at the beginning.
Yes.
So, when...
Oh, wait, hang on. Who are you?
Oh, I'm Ben Banasik.
I'm Tara Smith.
Hi, yes.
Hi.
And we're here in the Red Rum room of the Fisher Library at the University of Sydney
And
campus.
if we sound a bit tired, it's because we've done a few podcasts today.
We have, yeah.
We're smashing some out.
Do you know why they call university campuses campuses?
Yeah, campus comes from the Greek word kompo, which means together.
Yeah. I like that. I'm going to keep doing that all the time, I think.
Yes.
So, in the beginning, when a mummy loves a daddy...
In the beginning. There were two people.
Okay, so 2016. There's a guy called David Cameron. Very, very popular conservative leader, right? Yeah. Quite articulated. He's from Eton College, so like he's posh. He's from a well-to-do family, and he's well loved in the Conservative Party, but he actually speaks very well for British people, and he's looked at like with some high esteem. He promises to run a referendum for a number of things. Scottish independence, grants a Scottish independence referendum first, and then grants the possibility of having a Brexit independence. So he's trying to appease lots of people in Parliament.
Was there a need for people going to him and being like, let's exit the EU? Like, was this something that people really
Nigel
wanted?
Farage was. Nigel Farage is a character that's going to come up constantly through this.
And who is he again?
So he's currently the leader of the Brexit Party.
Okay.
So he was elected to the EU, so the European Parliament. It's next door. So he was elected to the European Parliament on the premise of elect me so I can put myself out of the job.
Right.
I think that it's useless for us to be part of the European Union, and he was sent by Britain to go have a go at the Europeans for putting these laws on British people.
Oh, because were they putting special laws that people were getting
and stuff
on exports?
Yeah, exports and then different.
So they do that to every country in the EU, right?
Yeah.
This is just part
the
of
Parliament
the
just
EU.
comes up with laws because that's what parliaments do. They come up with laws.
Because I don't know much about how the EU works. I don't know much how British Parliament works. But so they meet. So that each person has a representative that meets in the EU.
Each country, yes, has now, and that gets voted as a proportional representation. So it's not elected as per district, but it's like the Senate or the Upper House in New South Wales, where you have the percentage of the population will return a potentiality of returning at least one person. So in New South Wales here, I think it's about 13%, or hang on, 18%. 18% I think it is, for each Upper House member of Parliament. So if you get less than 18%, you are not going to get a member elected.
Does that mean there'll be some countries in the EU that don't have a member going for the EU?
No, they do. But they have... what I'm talking about is the voting of each of those countries and how they come up with the people that represent them in those countries. Yeah. So some of the argument that the British people have against the EU membership is we have a higher population base than, say, Lithuania. Why do they get an equal say?
Right, okay. So they felt like they weren't being represented properly at
There was a claim for that, yes. Now, the EU come up with some pretty stupid laws sometimes, to be fair.
Yeah.
And I can see both sides of the argument here. I'm not trying to be a splinter and sit on the fence. But I can understand why there are some concerns.
And they're worried about immigration as well, is that right?
And that became a vehicle against immigration. Yeah. So part of EU membership demands that you have a open, welcoming currency. So you have no tariffs between different countries, and you have the potentiality of having no borders. Now, that wasn't a problem until America started screwing with Iraq. And that set off a big chain of events. So you have the Second Gulf War. All right? Bush goes in, says we want to get rid of Saddam Hussein because some Afghanis hit the Twin Towers, which we paid for, right? Which is part of the Cold War. So this has all got to do with like remnants of the Cold War that are sitting there. It's just had this domino effect, right? So in Afghanistan, you had these warring parties, basically. Some funded by Russia or the USSR at the time, and some funded by America. Now, what happens is those American-funded parties start becoming more radical, and they then turn against American imperialism, and then planes hit the Twin Towers, and the Twin Towers come down. Right? So that's 9/11.
Yes.
Now, 9/11 happens, so Bush comes in and says, yeah, we're going to bomb the shit out of Iraq. We're going to get rid of Saddam Hussein. Funnily enough, we talk about gaming sometimes on this podcast. The closest thing that he apparently had to setting up actual, large bombing facilities, he bought something like 1,000 or 100 PlayStation 2 consoles and had the idea of linking them together to make a supercomputer. It doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah, so it's pretty dumb. Anyway, so Saddam dead. Okay, so Iraq in chaos. We won the war, hooray! Okay, so the West all goes home.
Yeah.
All right. The army gets pulled out because the demands of the American people are so it has to stop. Okay, that starts Islamic State or IS or Daesh, and then that starts putting pressure on Syria and Iraq, and those populations there, innocent people, are leaving those countries going, we do not want to be part of this. We're going to try and escape as quick as possible that we can. So we're going to go up through Turkey, across the Mediterranean, or, to Northern Africa actually as well, and going across the Mediterranean into Europe. That puts pressure on Germany and the other countries, so it puts at risk the open borders of the EU. Because once you're in one of those countries, you've got refugee status of that individual country, but not of the entire EU. But the EU is saying, or Germany is saying, well, we're taking all of these countries just because we're further to the east. Everyone should be taking this load. Yeah. We should all.
I thought it was unfair, just because based on geographical location, they're getting everybody.
Yeah. Then you have Turkey at the same time going, yeah, we're going to welcome all of these people, except if you're Kurdish, then we're going to kill you.
Right.
Like it's that brutal. Some of those countries. So.
And that's still happening. Because I remember this was a big media thing, maybe 3 or 4, a couple of years ago, but it's still happening. The mass migration.
Absolutely. You have people.
But less noise about it in the media.
Yeah, that's right. You have people that are institutionalized in camps, sitting on borders. All right. So. You've got that concern in relation to borders. And then there was uprisings in London where the police actually shut down the city and weren't allowing people to leave at night after 9 p.m. And you had riots actually taking place. These were gang riots, and knife crime was a big thing. So it was people from generally African descent or Arabic descent that were in gangs. And they were forming gangs and harassing people and fighting amongst each other.
So this is one of the reasons they're getting...
So then, you have the population of Britain going, this is not on, right? Yeah. So it's not... We want to control our borders, we want to control our laws. So it became determination.
But they still can anyway. Obviously, if I was a refugee and I just walked into the UK, I wouldn't be able to just waltz in, right?
You can at the moment.
Really? So it's not like Australia's closed?
No, because you've got... Well... Britain's a little bit different because it's surrounded by sea.
Yeah.
But you have a connecting tunnel to France through motor transport. You also have the issue of Ireland being split between Northern Ireland
and that's been a major contention around the
Brexit. Yeah. So back to Cameron. All right. So Cameron promises, look, we're going to hold a referendum. We'll allow it to go through, and people will vote. Because we are going to be stronger together, and I believe that we are stronger together as British people connected to the EU. And that's on the backs of the Scottish referendum losing. Alright, so Scotland, the referendum happens.
So I was wondering if Scotland wanted to be independent, is that right?
That's right. And they voted to remain. They voted to remain as part of the United Kingdom.
Yes.
And not get out of the United Kingdom. So what takes place is that they go off the back of that saying, okay, if you want to stay in the United Kingdom, you want to stay in Europe as well. And that was part of the rhetoric which was given to the Scottish people. So the Scottish people now feel ripped off because Cameron says, all right, now we're going to have a referendum for EU membership. And they're like, hang on a second, we just voted to be part of the UK because it's part of
the EU.
EU.
So they're getting the whole package.
That's right, yeah. And if you travel up into the Orkneys, some of them actually fly the Norwegian flag up there. They don't fly the British flag.
Yeah.
They feel closer to Europe than they do to Britain itself.
So they feel like they've been tricked.
Absolutely, yeah.
And now so Scotland, it's Ireland the one that control one of the main connections between Europe and
Ireland. Yes.
Yeah.
So we've got here, and I'll show you a map. And this is not going to be great for the listeners, but you guys can read up about it. So this is the voting results of the referendum. So basically what we're looking at is Scotland is awash with yellow, and that is the Remain voters.
Yep.
Ireland, closer you get to the border, the more Remainers you have. Then you have the rest of Great Britain, basically in Leave. Basically, like there are some small exceptions to the rule, but generally it was Leave. Now, this does not match party lines. Conservative voters did not vote Remain or Leave, nor did Labour voters. It mixed all across the board, which caused big problems.
And it's quite generational too, right?
Yeah,
a lot more
absolutely.
older people wanted to leave, and a lot of the young people wanted to remain.
Yeah, but there's still only about a 5 to 10% differential between the different age groups as well. So yes, there is a trend with older people that wanted to vote to leave, but that does not necessarily follow the course.
What was the percentage? Have you got it there? Who said stay? Who said go? The percentage?
51.89%.
So it's really close.
It's close, yeah. Now, in the knowledge that we have a 51.89% referendum saying that yes, you want to leave, and 48.11% saying...
Sorry, do they have mandatory voting like they do in Australia? No. So there's heaps of people probably that didn't vote.
Yeah. 33 million people turned out to vote, 46 million people are registered to vote, and the population of Britain is a lot higher than that.
Right.
Well, the population of the UK is a lot larger than that. All right, so they voted to leave. Now, lots of people have gone, oh, we didn't know this was going to be the result. We should have voted.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So, and tough, basically, is what the line of the parliament is, because
they had a chance.
They had a chance. It was once in a generation. Everyone was saying, yeah, we have to leave. We have to leave. Now, the problem with saying you have to leave is, okay, great, you're going to leave. Yeah, you get rid of the currency, so the pound is still stagnant. So that's okay. You can get rid of some of the laws. That's okay as well. No one knew about what would happen with Ireland, and this is what's referred to as the backstop.
Yeah.
So the backstop is where you've got the Irish border as part of the what's it called? The Sunday arrangement. It's in that song, Sunday Bloody Sunday. It's an agreement which says that there should never be a border between Northern Ireland and the Republic. So there should never ever be a border across Ireland. Now,
is that to do with IRA and all that stuff?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So you're getting into the Irish history here, which is not good, because what's going to happen is you get a border that's put there. There's going to be, like, checkpoints and walls.
And Ireland doesn't want that, do they?
No one wants that.
Why would they need... Oh, because part of Ireland wants to stay and part of Ireland wants to go, is that right?
No, well,
the Republic wants
the Northern Ireland is part of the UK. The Republic is not. So...
Are they independent?
Yeah. Yeah, so
and
you have...
Who voted to stay and who voted to go?
The other Ireland, as in the Republic of Ireland, did not vote.
Oh, right, okay.
Because it's not part of it, yeah. So you have the Northern Ireland actually saying, well, we are now forced into this situation. So Northern Ireland, I'll get the results for you because this is the one
that keeps changing too. I mean, this is what the EU keeps giving, my understanding, they keep giving UK certain ultimatums, and UK keeps going, but we don't want to do that, and the EU goes, well, this is what we're saying. They're both, it's a bit of a stalemate, right?
Yeah.
The UK really needed the EU to budge on certain things, and it just hasn't.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. Okay, so this is all happening. Right, then Cameron, the leader, like the Conservative guy that lots of people liked, right? So he was pretty popular at that point, had all of this go wrong, and he's pissed off Scotland, because Scotland are now saying, well, now we're being forced to leave, even though all of Scotland voted to remain, definitely voted to remain, and he's carrying the votes of remain, basically, for England. If it was just England and Wales, it'd be percentage a lot higher, yeah? And, yeah, there's a minority in Ireland which pushed for leaving, which is the DUP, the Democratic Unionist Party, whereas the rest said, no, we should remain. Cameron says, on one fateful morning, that's it, I'm going to leave, does a press conference, and then famously walks back to the number 10 door whistling, going, which is quite funny.
So he leaves Parliament?
Yeah, quit as leader.
Right.
Which was an amazing surprise for everyone. No one thought that was going to take place. And it was like, okay, you have not organised who's your successor.
Okay, so it's sort of like lighting a fire, essentially, and leaving it.
Whistling away. I did not foresee this was going to be a problem.
Do you say family reasons?
But it was basically because of the referendum result. He could not lead a Conservative party honestly, because he campaigned strongly for Remain, and people didn't listen to him.
So he always wanted to remain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, stronger together.
Right.
Yeah. So that was the mantra. The mantra he ran through Scotland, and then the mantra he ran through.
So he wasn't expecting them to.
Ooh.
Shit.
No, yeah, and it gained momentum through the campaign. And it gained momentum from people like Boris Johnson, who was the previous mayor of London, and then the new member for Oxbridge. Yeah.
So now who's in charge?
Well, Theresa May comes along. So Theresa May wins the vote to become the Conservative leader after Boris Johnson was promised the position, but then screwed over by a number of different people. So there's lots of different personalities that are in play, and I'm not going to go through the whole front bench and back bench, but basically he was screwed over from being the leader. So he takes the position as the foreign minister under Theresa May's leadership.
And she's Conservative as well?
Yes. Now, Theresa May goes to the election, wins the election, they form a parliament with the DUP, which is the Democratic Unionist Party. That's the party that campaigned for leave, remember, in Ireland. All right? So they've got them on side, and they've got the Conservatives sitting in Parliament forming this coalition. Now, the problem is, Theresa May tries to negotiate a deal to please everyone, and that doesn't please anyone at all. So she brings this vote to Parliament, and Parliament just voted down. Because people just leave the Conservative Party. You got like tropes of people just crossing the floor constantly, like between Labour and the Conservatives.
So is it really divided?
Yeah, absolutely. Because remember, the votes were not on party grounds with the constituencies. You've got people from strong Leave areas or strong Remain areas, and you're all being banded together as one single party, trying to say, okay, yeah, we're going to, continue the referendum.
So before she can talk to the EU, she's trying to get everybody just to agree an agreement within the UK Parliament, and they're not.
It does not. Yep, so she can't do that. So then she bandies together a deal with the EU. She brings that back to British Parliament, and they vote on it. They vote it down. She thinks, okay, well, I'll just win it by vote by exhaustion. Brings it back a second time.
What does that mean, vote by exhaustion?
I'll just keep bringing back the same vote over and over again, and you guys will be so exhausted that you're going to vote for it. Yep.
It's a tactic.
Yeah, vote by exhaustion, yeah. So it's a tactic in the Australian Parliament particularly. But what happens with the EU Parliament, also the UK Parliament?
They start giving them deadlines, right? You need to sort your shit out in the next month.
Yeah, so you have Burko, which is the Speaker. And he recognises... What time we got the room till?
I thought we had it. Sorry, everybody. It
is 3 p.m.
I think I booked it till 5.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, nice. Okay, so that'll allow us to get at least through 2017's history. I think. Okay, so what happens is Burko, right, the Speaker of the Parliament.
Yeah.
Right? Really charismatic guy.
Burko is Speaker of which Parliament?
The UK.
British.
The British Parliament. He finds a ruling that says you can't bring back the same substantive motion again because it's been voted down, which is true. I knew that through council as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not allowed to do that within 3 months. So he refuses to allow her to bring it back. So then she's stuck there going, I'm the government. My policy is to leave. What are we going to do? So Parliament takes control of itself, away from the government of the day. So they start voting. Which
is a really old thing the UK that they used to be able to do, but no one's ever done.
No, it's because no one's been able to do it so close to where the boundaries of, where the numbers of Parliament is. Because she's right on the margin. So she needed 9 votes to take control.
Oh, okay. So she never had that much control power.
Never an outright majority.
Right.
And then even with the majority that she held, some of her members were just saying, well, I'm not going to turn up.
Right.
I just won't do it. So it only takes half a dozen people to cross the floor for them to actually continually lose votes.
Yeah.
Then what takes place is they take control of the Parliament, and then you have all these motions. So they force her to ask for extension after extension, pushing it.
I remember reading about those going through, and the UK the EU keeps saying no. Right?
Yeah, that was stunning. That was stunning to watch. So I've watched all of the Question Time since Theresa May was Prime Minister, and I watched most of PMQs when Cameron was PM. And it's easy to watch because it's only goes for an hour. Yeah. It's every fortnight or so.
So why is EU being so strict with it? I get the feeling that EU is just really impatient and pissed off now.
Well, yeah, they don't know what... So Theresa May goes to them and says, okay, I've got this deal on the table. They are not in a vacuum. They can see what's happening in the EU, in the UK.
Yeah. They're also in a bit of a position of power, right? They don't need to really owe the UK anything. There's no reason they need to help them funnel stuff through.
That's right. And they want an orderly exit. That's fine. But they know that Theresa May could not control her parliament.
Yeah.
Because she'd lost control at that point.
Yeah.
She had no position of power to go.
No leverage.
No leverage at all. So she falls on her sword as well, giving quite a tearful speech, which she has been critiqued for in showing emotion then, but never showing emotion throughout her entire prime ministership. So it's been quite harsh, the critique of her prime ministership.
Yeah. But she's still in power now.
Nope.
She's still Prime Minister?
No. She's a backbencher now.
Oh, who's Prime Minister now?
Now we got Boris Johnson. So Boris Johnson.
Oh, he's like, woohoo!
Yeah. So he's like last man standing.
He's waiting for his time.
Right? So he comes in.
Yeah.
And he says, right, we're going to leave Parliament. We're going to leave the EU. We're going to leave the EU on the 31st of October, 2019. Okay, spoilers, we are after that date, no matter what time that this is published. This should probably be published soon, so hopefully it gets out soon. We're going to leave. We're going to do it. And in order to do it, I want to have a Queen's speech. And the Queen's speech is when I'll invite the Queen to come and we'll reset Parliament. Now, he does that, and that pauses Parliament from happening. Now, they take that to court. So they, as in some individuals, and then the Scottish Parliament, takes that to court.
Because they're not happy about it.
Yeah, you don't have the right to stop Parliament. You can't do that because Parliament has still got control of itself, yeah? So whilst Boris Johnson has control of his party, and the Conservatives have generally come behind him and now banded behind him, because he's quite charismatic, he's quite funny.
Yeah.
The way that he talks is actually jovial. He's likened a lot to Trump, but I don't think he's another Eton guy. He's very smart, very, very intelligent politician, and he knows the way to get through things. He was mayor of London not for a mistake. He knew what he was doing.
So he had the Conservatives on hand, but not the rest of the party. Is that right? I mean, the rest of the Parliament.
That's right, yes. Okay. So the rest of the Parliament are like, no, you can't do that. So he's taken to court, and the court rules that, no, you're not allowed to actually stop Parliament. Now, they do that on the week that the Conservative conference is taking place.
Why did he decide to stop Parliament? I don't understand why he would do that.
To stop the votes happening against the government all the time. Because they kept voting to try and get him to go to the EU and ask for extensions and then push the deadlines back. And they're just pushing the boundaries.
Wow, so he wanted to almost did a coup to try and ruin any power the Parliament might have.
And then
so the democratic process, he's basically saying, trying to pause it and then work things out behind
and then
the
work
scene.
behind the scenes with the EU, come up with an agreement, bring that agreement back to the Parliament, and then 3 days later they'll vote for it.
Well, in a way, whilst it's quite anti-democratic, I can understand he's getting frustrated by not being able to even bring up and get a bill together with his Parliament to be able to take to the EU.
Yes.
So he can't even take it
because you're at the negotiating table with the EU, so it's messy. Like, they're messing with everything by saying these stupid speeches, in his view, and ruining his chances.
But the problem is a lot of those people in Parliament want to representing people and themselves not, wanting to stay with the EU, right?
That's right. Yeah, a lot of them are. A lot of them want to leave in different terms than he wants to leave. Right. A lot of them want hard exit. A lot of them want soft exit. Some of them want a
because also a lot of people would have agreed to it before knowing the repercussions, right?
Correct.
Before knowing how Europe was going to.
Yeah.
And then they wanted to do another referendum, right?
Yeah, and that's the hard thing, because if you run another referendum, well, what happens when they're not happy with that result too?
Yeah.
And then the next referendum, what happens with that?
Yeah.
So, what Bojo does, the Queen's speech takes place, but Parliament comes back before that. And it's in the week.
Wait, do they really get the Queen to come and do a speech?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's like the Governor General's address that happens in Australia. So it's
Poor
it's
Queen
funny.
had to get out of Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, there's looks of her. You know, she's quite old, right? So I don't mind Elizabeth. She's does what she does. I don't really mind the British Parliament, the British monarchy as it is. Like, it's a thing. It's antiquated, but you know, I don't dislike them as people or anything. But there's pictures of her in Parliament, and you know how old people, when they get that starey look, you know, they look quite cranky, no matter what they look like. And there's her looking at Boris Johnson, and it's like, if looks could tell, and it's like just her cranky looking at him, and she's probably not. She's probably just tired sitting there going, been pulled away from my corgis and tea to talk about this and my charity work, because they do a lot of charity. Anyway, so the Conservative conference is taking place. On the day that Parliament comes back, Bojo is there at the Conservative conference, doesn't go to Parliament, and says a speech at the Conservative conference. Says, no, I'm not going, don't care, whatever.
Wow,
Parliament can do whatever it wants. Vote for whatever it wants, doesn't matter. Over my dead body am I going to ask for an extension? Says that. I would be rather die in a ditch than ask for an extension.
Why are they so... Because they don't want to seem weak. Is that the thing? And there's been so many requests for extensions.
Mm-hmm. And Boris Johnson was promised to be leader. He made the case that he is going to be leader, and he's going to be leader of a party that is going to push through for Brexit, and will do it come hell or high water, no matter what.
Right. And so instead of going to Parliament and listening to the speeches he's trying to be... It's funny, because they're all posturing to try and be really hard-lined.
Yeah.
And yet, the issue isn't really clear.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody... it's now quite divided. And also, the EU, who has more of a power, is also being hard-lined.
Yeah.
No one wants to budge, and it's just stupid.
Yeah, totally.
So the deadline where he said that they would be leaving has obviously passed, and they haven't left, right?
Correct. We are now recording after the 31st of October. So,
why not?
Well, why didn't they leave? Because he didn't have the numbers in the Parliament. He tried to bring it to the Parliament. Parliament voted against it. So he goes, okay, all right, no worries. Let's have an election. All right, so now let's bring in Jeremy Corbyn, leader of the Labour Party.
So complicated.
Right? So Jeremy Corbyn, leader of the Labour Party, is a lefty.
Yes.
Hard lefty.
Yes.
Like Stalinist lefty. Right? So he supported the USSR at certain points during his political career. He's quite old, so it's not unusual for people in the Labour Party in different eras to do that. Hardcore, right?
So he's head of the Labour Party.
Now, which pisses off a lot of people in the Labour Party.
He wasn't before?
Not previously, no.
So hang on, when you say they called another election, what does that mean exactly?
So what Boris Johnson wanted to do was go, okay, that's it, we'll dissolve this Parliament, get rid of all of the MPs, and let's hold an election.
Oh shit, can they do that?
Yep. Well, they have term rules unless 2/3 of the Parliament votes for it. Now, the Labour Party is then put under pressure because they're saying, okay, we're going to leave, but we want a customs union and we want all of these different things. And it's unclear what Jeremy Corbyn's position has been throughout the period, because he's trying to appease lots of different people all at the same time.
Who's Jeremy?
Leader of the Labour Party.
Okay.
Yeah. So Jeremy Corbyn is put under pressure by Boris Johnson Boris Johnson points at him and says, it's your job as the leader of the opposition to represent your party in an election. Vote for having an election. The Labour Party abstained from that vote. So Boris Johnson wasn't allowed to hold an election. So they're stuck in this position. So Boris Johnson wasn't able to bring a motion back to the Parliament. And at the same time, the Labour Party didn't want to have an election. So
well, they wouldn't want to lose their jobs, right? All those MPs would lose their jobs. Is that right? If they got a new election?
That's right, because Jeremy Corbyn, his polls at the moment are going down. Like, he's not going well in the polls.
Yeah.
So it's looking like the Conservatives will be returned by the exact same number of votes that they have.
So they still would probably be at a stalemate anyway.
That's right.
After the election.
Now, what's happened? So this is only within the last 3 weeks. So a week later, Corbyn agrees to an election because his position was becoming untenable. In an opposition, you need to be able to say, yeah, I will fight you, I will go to the polls any day, and I will win the election. If you're sitting there going, no, I don't want to vote for an election because, there's a risk of this.
He's scared of...
That's right.
He doesn't think Labour will get elected.
Yes,
is that right?
That's right, yeah. And he's also terrified that if he loses the election, his position will become untenable. He knows that the MPs behind him don't want him there, but the Labour Party members do. So he's in a really difficult position. So
first he says no, and then he says okay.
Yeah, now he said okay. Okay, so Parliament is dissolved. Yeah. This happened 2 weeks ago, as we're recording this date. So something like that, 2 weeks ago. So now, enter Farage again. Remember? Nigel Farage, the guy that's part of the Brexit party that said that he wanted? Okay. Yeah. So Farage comes in and says, excellent, we got an election, that's great. But the Conservatives, you're not going hard enough or far enough. I want to go hard exit.
No, hang on, let me guess. He wants to leave the Earth. He wants to leave planet Earth.
I want to leave without an agreement.
I want to leave without... Oh, okay. So he wants to bypass the EU.
Yeah, I just want to get out of the EU, stuff the EU.
Because there's the EU saying you can leave on these conditions.
Yeah, and we'll have these agreements between each other. So we'll have a trade agreement, and then we'll have some sort of border control.
We'll work shit out, but basically you have to leave Ireland alone, right? Yeah. And then they've gone, well, we really need Ireland border. We need to work that out. That's so then they can't even get that agreement together.
Yeah, so they're struggling to get that. But they've pieced it sort of together by saying that, look, there won't be a border, but there'll be some sort of technology.
They'll come up with an alternative. But no one's been able to vote on it in Parliament.
No, that's right. So there is a ramshackled iron.
Yeah, but they haven't even been able to take it back to the EU yet.
No, they've done that with the EU. So that's what the Conservatives have, and Conservatives are running this election saying, this is what we're going to present to the Parliament. No changes. We've got the EU to agree with it, so we're going to bring it back day one, and we will vote for it, no matter what. You vote for us to have a majority, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get this. You vote for Labour.
But then Farage is saying this isn't enough.
Yeah, so let's go for the Labour side first. Labour side says... no, we're not happy with that agreement. We're going to scrap that agreement. We're going to go back and start renegotiating with the UK. Yeah. And then once we got that...
You mean with the EU?
With the EU, sorry. Once we've got that negotiation with the EU, then we will put a vote back to the people and have another referendum on that.
So Labour's trying to stall. Yeah,
so Labour's... Yeah, it's very clear. Yes, yes. So that's... And the Labour Party is saying, no, we're not stalling, but they're stalling.
Essentially stalling.
Then you've got Farage, the guy in the corner that throws eggs... going, nah, you're not going far enough. Labour, you're in danger. You're a danger to the country. That's not on. So we're going to go for a hard exit. I'm going to run candidates against everyone in Parliament.
What does that mean exactly?
So he wanted to take seats off the Conservative Party, which means it would actually cause more chaos in the Parliament because you have more.
Isn't he in the Conservative Party?
Farage?
Yeah.
No, Brexit Party.
But how would he hasn't got the power to run elections against each person. What does that mean? Because they haven't called a new election.
Well, now they have.
Oh. Yeah. Because Labour agreed. So instead of working with the Conservatives, which makes sense because they want to leave. They want to remain.
Yeah.
No, wait.
No, they want to leave.
Sorry, they want to leave EU. I get confused because Remain and
so
EU.
Conservative want to leave.
Yeah.
And... the Brexit Party obviously want to leave because
so instead of working together, they're actually going to run people against them.
Yeah. So
why would that be strategy?
It would be stupid strategy. Yeah. So just yesterday, so this is just as of the, I think it was the 10th of November actually, he made an announcement that he's not going to stand candidates against any seats that the Conservatives won last time. because he's more worried about a new upcoming party, which is the Lib Dems. And the Lib Dems are actually saying, we don't want to leave at all. Labor's not standing up for you guys. We're the party of Remain. And the Lib Dems used to be in coalition with the Conservative Party.
So he's worried that the strategy to call a new election is going to backfire.
Yeah. So now he's gone back on his word. So
he's no longer going to go against
the Conservatives. He's going to...
so he's being a bit smarter and going to go after the seats where the Lib Dems might win. Is that right?
But he made this convoluted speech last night, and it was like, I saw this hope, this matter of hope in something that Boris Johnson said yesterday, and I thought
I've had a change of heart.
Now I think that I can trust him. Yeah.
So their deadline's obviously gone. What's the EU's deadline? Because EU's given them a deadline too, right?
It's now January, I think. January 31st, 2020.
So the EU just said you need to sort your shit out by January 2020, right? So they've also pushed their own deadline.
Yeah.
Because they had an earlier deadline.
The EU are happy to push the deadline a little bit if there's agreement in the Parliament and if there's a use for it. But if it's just constant deadlines, there's no point. So the EU are not in favour of what some of those MPs were doing in the UK Parliament as well. So you've got people like Jo Swinson from the Lib Dems, and she's now representing a party of just 3 members currently that were elected. But then there's some Conservatives and Labor people that actually come behind that now as well. They're running candidates in most seats. They're saying, we are the only party of Remain.
Yeah, which is interesting because it's so spread out. It wasn't an issue that was easily party divided,
That's right?
So you might have elections voted for Labor thinking that they might support you because you want to Remain. And then some people, those members are now sort of being like, oh, I don't know whether, you know what I mean? So it makes sense now that parties are actually trying to market themselves as being either Remain or to leave, right?
You'd think so, but the Greens and the Labor Party are not doing... Oh, the Greens actually, I think, are a Remain party still, but the Labor Party, they only have 1 member in Parliament, I think. The Labor Party is saying this stalling tactic, and people are worried. So there is a potential of the Labor vote just collapsing as part of this.
No, they don't have trust in them.
And Jo Swinson, a relatively unknown politician, could potentially hold the balance of power next election.
Which one's Jo Swinson again?
Liberal Democrats. So they're the ones that are saying no, we Remain. And they held the position of Deputy Prime Minister with the Cameron government. So they had a coalition at that point because Cameron didn't win the full majority of Parliament at that point.
How long has it been since Labor has been in charge of the Parliament? A long time.
Oh, it's before Cameron, so it would be prior to 2009?
So it's been quite a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah.
So what do you think's going to happen?
Good question.
If you had to make a prediction.
Good question. I think what's going to happen is that the Conservatives will be returned with the same amount of potential people that voted for them last time. I think the Lib Dems are going to win seats off Labor Party.
Won't that make it even harder for them to push anything through Parliament? To just make the divide worse?
It's going to be, it'll be hard.
Do you think ultimately Britain's going to leave or not? If you had to make a prediction.
I think so. What happens to Scotland after that is another question.
Or Ireland, right?
Or Ireland,
with their divide. And the pound has been suffering because of this, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And there's a lot of people that work in the EU, they're worried about their status, whether they work in the EU or work in the UK.
EU people that are living in the UK and have been enjoying a pension, because part of the EU arrangement is that no matter where you are a retiree, doesn't matter where you are in the EU or the UK, you're getting a pension.
Yeah.
Now that's gone. You know, you're an individual country.
Do you also think this might give other countries that want to gain independence the idea?
Yeah, well, people talk about Grexit, the Greek exit, and then...
that would be silly. They're already suffering so much.
They tried to do it twice.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I don't think they'll do it. Yeah, I don't think so.
What would be the benefit? They think they might have more control over their money and stuff. It's not like the EU's making them go bust, is it? Are they?
Oh, they were. Yeah, there was reparation loans which were too high. The percentages were too high at the point where there was actually a financial crisis. But now they've sort of resuscitated their own economy. Yeah, they are still suffering.
But was that euros for?
If you ask the Greeks, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it's a hard issue. Greek politics is something completely different. That's
When do you think we'll have an idea of what's happening? When's the next big event?
The election's happening, so the election will happen on the December 12th, I think. Let's have a look.
It makes Australian Parliament look tame. Just the amount of changes and stuff they've had.
Yeah, it's really hard. And then you have the Lords as well, which is...
Yeah. We'll have to do another episode where you just explain British Parliament to me, because it's quite confusing as well.
Ooh, we're getting... No, there's no one there. Where is it? 2019 election. Yeah, December the 12th.
So that's when we might
on
have some more information.
They hold elections on weekdays.
Do they?
Late voting. And there's a thing where they count all of the votes that night. And you have to go to big halls, and then they make announcements. Yeah, that's quite...
when was the last time they had an election?
It was Theresa May.
They've had one recently. Is that normal that they have this many elections?
Nope. So 2017 was Theresa May's.
So how often are they normally? Like every 4 years or something?
Yeah.
Or like Australia?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah. So Australia's 4 years. Oh, no, Australia's 3 years for federal parliament.
Yeah.
Earliest is 3 years.
Right, okay.
And something months.
And but we can call special ones too, right? If we're really worried.
Yeah, they always hold. Yeah, it's the Prime Minister's prerogative to do that.
Yeah.
But generally, you don't have the Labor Party voting against an election. I've never seen an opposition party all not turn up for a vote.
Because they're worried that they're not very popular.
They abstained. They just didn't even turn up. So the turnstiles happened, and then they couldn't actually vote.
So yeah, probably if you're left-leaning or a greenie in the Parliament, you'd be a bit confused about.
Yeah.
Like, you would be pretty pissed off with Labour.
Well, the SNP, so Scottish Nationalist Party, they get basically all of the seats in Scotland. Maybe one. There's one Conservative or two Conservative seats and one Labour seat. Mm-hmm. That's it. The rest of it... Oh, and Jo Swinson's seat, which is the Lib Dem. So she's up in Scotland. So all of those seats are SNP seats. And you have the SNP in Parliament going, we've been asking to get rid of this government. We're going to vote for this election. Labor, why don't you come along and actually vote for this? And Labor Party aren't even there on the benches. Like, they're saying, where's the Labor Party? Where is the actual opposition of this Parliament? Yeah. Scotland is here being left behind. And that's their constant mantra, that we voted for this thing. Yes, the people of Scotland voted to remain, and it's been let down by this Parliament. So my dad, heavy Remainer, went over there and handed out for the Vote Yes campaign to remain, Scottish, proud Scottish born, Polish, Scottish, French,
whatever,
weird background. Anyway, he remained. He was a Leave, Scotland Leave person, so he voted yes, wanted to vote yes for the referendum for Scotland to leave the UK.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I was against that originally. Then the UK election.
Yeah.
My dad said, no, it would be good if the UK left, because then Scotland will have another referendum and then they'll leave. And I'm like, no, that's silly. So I said, no, they should remain. So I disagreed again with my father on this. Now this election, my father probably wants the Conservative Party to win and force through the change. So then Scotland will have another chance to vote.
Well, Scotland has a long history of wanting independence in the UK.
That's right.
And they sort of have been tricked because they assumed that the benefits of being part of the EU outweighed the need for independence. Correct. Is that right? And then now they're not even getting that. So they must be pretty pissed off.
Yeah, okay. But in saying that, yes, that's right. But in saying that, Scotland is a pretty big border. And it's a pretty open border. Like, I've been there. It's just fields and shit. Like, there's nothing there. There's some towns and stuff along the borders, but it's generally just an open countryside, and it's a pretty big space. The Romans tried to build a wall on that border. That did not work. There is no way to block off people movement between Scotland and England. It's just not possible.
Would that be part of it? If they got to remove... If they wanted to get out of the UK, they'd need to build a border, would they?
Well, England want to control their own population movement. So what happens? Do you have free movement only from people from Scotland to England? But then if Scotland still has membership with the EU and it's got free people movement between there, who's going to check There's no one to check because you don't have to check.
complicated.
Yeah. It's really, really complicated.
I don't know. But the point being that even what you think this election might do is just make it worse, right?
Yes.
Make the stalemate even bigger.
Yes. I'm the bringer of bleak news. I don't think that it will be decisive either way.
Yeah.
Bojo's campaigning hard though. Is
People might just be so fed up with it, they're like, oh, let's just leave.
Yeah.
Or let's just remain.
Yeah. So that's the two ways that it could go, and I don't see a reason why people would vote for Labour. Why would you? Why would you vote for something? There are other reasons.
Why didn't they go staunch on one or the other? Why didn't they say we are the team of staying with the EU? That's who we are.
Because some Labour constituencies were the strongest to leave.
Really?
Yeah, the strongest.
Oh, probably because working class.
Yeah.
Racist. Oh, anti-immigration. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anti-stealing my jobs kind of rhetoric.
Yeah.
God, what a schmozzle.
It's a big schmozzle. Yeah.
All right. No, I think this has been good. It's been informative.
Sad things though.
Yeah.
Burko has retired from Parliament, so the Speaker, the old Speaker that is very enjoyable to listen to and says lots of funny calls. Yeah. He's retiring from Parliament, so he's gone. I think Theresa May is not standing again now, so she was leader previously. She's not going to stand again.
What do you think the people thinking in the UK? They're probably really fed up with it, right? And really pissed off.
Yeah, anger at the Parliament for failing them. Either way, for not representing them. That's the biggest call, that this Parliament is not representing me as a person.
Yeah. But, I mean, they're never going to please everyone, whether they stay or leave, right?
No, that's right.
But at the moment, both are pissed off.
Yeah. That's an old adage that I used to say when I was in local government, that as long as we've annoyed everyone, we've done a good job. I used to joke about an old general manager. I'm kidding, of course, try and please everyone. But you end up annoying a lot of people just by the fact of you being there.
Or being strong in decisions.
Yeah, what people want one thing or another thing, and they're not being delivered those things at the same time because they are mutually exclusive.
Yes.
And you just can't do that. But you're trying to appease people and do something that's actually a mixture of the two. And then you annoy both people anyway because
Or you don't do anything, you keep stalling, and you look really weak.
That's the worst thing, yes. So I think Corbyn out of this is looking really, really weak. He's kept this mantra up saying, we want a customs union, we want a deal on the backstop, we want an arrangement of an orderly exit, and we want people to have a say in that arrangement, right? So that's basically his 4-point plan, constantly going on and on and on about that. That's really hard to campaign against someone who's just saying, I'm leaving, I've got an arrangement in my hand, this is what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to vote for Remain, if you're going to vote for Leave.
Yeah.
If you want Remain, why would you vote for Labour saying, I want custom union, I want this and that, why would you?
They're trying to please everyone rather than just sticking with a position and looking like a strong option for people.
Yeah. So what happens with Corbyn's position after the election, regardless of if he actually can pull together some sort of working majority of the Parliament in order to... So say that the Conservatives bum out and they don't win the seats that are needed. If Jeremy Corbyn can actually get a coalition somehow working, I don't think his position is quite as tenable as what he assumes it would be. Because the membership might back him, but the parliamentarians definitely don't.
Yes. It also, just as an aside, it will be bad, I think, if Britain leaves the EU, right? For economically, and it's going to be so messy controlling the borders.
Well, statistically it says that there is going to be a hit on the economy. Right? Whether that hit is as hard as what I think it is or not, depends on what trade arrangements will come out after the EU. You have a boost in sort of like the strong market economy with some sort of reinvestment.
Do you know how much UK imports versus exports? Do you know whether that...
It's a lot, but there's different control mechanisms. So part of the control is that... so part of the EU membership is that the fisheries, so the water ways in between all the countries, is actually free to roam. And then so some of that can be farmed by different people controlled by the EU. And that controls some of Scotland's waters. And the UK is saying, no, we're taking control of that.
Right. So
we're going to wrestle that back.
So they won't be able to fish around as much.
No, only the Scottish people will. And haddock and stuff, that's a big market. it's a very big market for that fishing, and it's a very rich base. I've been on like those wharfs and stuff and seen it. It's quite magnificent. It's weird actually. The oceans in like parts of England and Scotland, they don't have waves like we have waves. Like it's a lot
different type of sea.
Yeah. I don't know. There's rougher seas out there, but it's not as but it's more stagnant. Like it's I was surprised with it. Anyway, I don't like oceans.
Yeah, I know. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
Either way, it's not looking like there's going to be a decisive answer for leave or stay.
No, and it's happening every day. Like I said, that's what happened with just Farage's just announcement yesterday. What tomorrow will bring in the next day, it's probably going to change again. So it's really, really interesting.
We should do an update episode after.
Yeah. Running commentaries using our news theme at the beginning of each episode. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for informing me about Brexit. I knew like bits and pieces, like a few sentences here and there, but I didn't know the context, how important it was to Scotland. I thought that was really interesting, as well as the argy-bargies within the politics, which I hadn't spent that much time understanding. Like you see the names mentioned, obviously it filters through, but it's not something I've looked. All I get is just the frustration. I get that sense of frustration that nothing's happening. And the deadline, and then they can't. The deadline.
It doesn't have the aesthetics of the place as well, because the Parliament itself, how it's set up, you don't have enough room for all the members actually to stand in and sit.
Yeah.
So you have like turnstiles of people voting. So the place is packed, and you've got people standing all over the place as well, and they're all yelling. So it's like a really small room with all of these people yelling at each other, and everyone has a different opinion on something.
Yeah.
I imagine the Forum would actually be a lot like that, with ancient Rome.
Yeah.
But yeah, how many haddocks out of 10 what did you give Brexit? Or we'll vote on that next time, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it, but I would sense that staying with the EU makes more sense than leaving, but who knows?
It'll be simpler.
Yeah. I could tell the EU's kind of like a bit pissed off, like, with it all, just like, oh, fine, leave. Well, don't leave it, shut up. Anyway, thanks. Oh, so we give it a rating?
No, you don't have to rate it, it's fine. It's all good. All right, well, we'll be back next week with something.
And we'll do a Brexit update later, maybe in like 6 months when they're still going.
Yeah, post-election thing, and then maybe post-Christmas we can do something.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Au revoir.
Bye.